You have cried in front of another person before, maybe at a funeral, maybe during a movie, maybe alone in a car, where you thought nobody could see. But somewhere, deep in your body, something decided that water should leave your eyes because of a feeling. Not because of smoke. Not because of dust. Because of an emotion. No other animal on Earth does this. Not gorillas, not elephants, not dogs, no matter how sad their eyes look in a photograph. Only you. And that should strike you as strange. Evolution rarely keeps things around for no reason. Every trait that survives millions of years of natural selection usually earns its place. It helps you run faster, see farther, fight harder, or survive longer. So what is emotional crying doing here? It doesn't help you escape a predator. It doesn't help you catch food. If anything, it blurs your vision at the exact moment your body might need to see clearly. It signals weakness to anyone nearby, and yet here you are, thousands of generations later, still doing it. The real answer is far stranger than we cry because we're sad. To understand why you cry, you first have to understand that not all tears are the same. Your eyes actually produce 3 different kinds. The first is called a basal tear. This is the quiet, constant kind. It coats your eyeball every time you blink, keeping it moist and protected. You don't notice it because it never stops. The second kind is a reflex tear. This is the kind that floods your eyes when you cut an onion, or when a gust of wind hits your face, or when dust lands on your cornea. Your body is flushing out an irritant. Simple mechanics. Nothing emotional about it. Then there's the third kind. Emotional tears. These are the tears that come from grief, or joy, or overwhelming relief, or an argument that finally breaks you. And here is where the story gets interesting. In the 1980s, a biochemist named William Frey decided to actually test whether these tears were different, chemically, from the other 2 kinds. He collected tears from women who had just watched sad films, and compared them to tears collected after cutting onions. What he found surprised people. Emotional tears weren't just water with feelings attached. They contained a noticeably higher concentration of protein. They contained prolactin, a hormone linked to lactation and stress regulation. They contained something called ACTH, a hormone your body releases specifically under psychological stress. And they contained a chemical called leucine and enkephalin, a natural painkiller similar in function to morphine. In other words, when you cry from emotion, you may be leaking out some of the very same chemicals your body produces when it is under pressure. Frey's theory, which became famous almost overnight, was elegant in its simplicity. Crying, he proposed, is your body's way of physically expelling stress, a release valve. Cry hard enough, and you are quite literally flushing out the chemical residue of whatever just hurt you. It's a beautiful idea. It explains why people so often say they feel lighter after a good cry. It gives crying a clear, almost mechanical purpose. But is it true? Here's the uncomfortable part. Frey's original study has never been fully replicated. Ad Vingerhoots, a professor at Tilburg University and one of the most cited crying researchers alive today, has tried to reproduce Frey's findings more than once. He hasn't been able to confirm them. That doesn't mean Frey was wrong. It means science hasn't caught up enough to know for certain. And in 2011, a researcher named Lauren Bilesma ran a different kind of study. Instead of asking people to remember how they felt after crying weeks later, she had participants report their mood the same day the crying happened. The results were far less tidy than the popular story suggests. Only around 30% of people said their mood actually improved after crying. About 60% reported no real change at all. And a notable portion said they actually felt worse. So the good cry theory, the one you've probably heard your whole life, might be more myth than mechanism. Which brings you back to the original question. If crying doesn't reliably make you feel better, and it doesn't help you survive physically, why does it exist at all? One theory has nothing to do with chemistry and everything to do with communication. Think about what a tear actually looks like on a human face. It catches light. It rolls slowly down skin in a way that is almost impossible to miss, even from a distance. Some researchers believe this visibility is the entire point. A tear is a signal. It tells the people around you, without a single word, that something is wrong. It asks for help in a way that bypasses language completely. A baby's cry can be loud and demanding, but loud cries can also attract predators, or wake an entire camp, or draw unwanted attention. A silent, visible tear does something quieter. It says, "I am struggling," to the one person close enough to see your face, without broadcasting it to everyone else. Now picture your ancestors, not modern humans in cities and apartments, but small groups moving together across open land, dependent on each other for survival in a way you can barely imagine today. In that world, being noticed by your group when you were suffering wasn't weakness. It was strategy. A visible tear could summon comfort, protection, or resources from the people around you, the same people your survival depended on. Over enough generations, a trait that reliably pulled other humans closer during moments of vulnerability could absolutely be favored by evolution. Not because it helped you individually, but because it strengthened the bonds holding your entire group together. This is where the story becomes less about chemistry and more about connection. There's another detail that supports this idea. Newborn babies cry constantly, but they don't produce tears right away. For the first few weeks of life, an infant's cries are loud and dry. The tear glands haven't matured yet. When tears do finally appear, weeks later, something changes. The crying becomes visible, not just audible. Some researchers believe this timing isn't a coincidence. A newborn's dry cry exists to summon immediate attention through sound. But once tears arrive, crying gains a second, quieter function. It becomes something that can be seen and understood from across a room, even in silence. Isn't it strange that the most defining feature of emotional crying, tears themselves, may exist primarily to be seen by someone else? This idea reframes everything. Crying was never really about you alone. It was about the people around you. It evolved, perhaps, not as a release, but as a request. A physical, visible plea for connection at the exact moment you needed it most. And this is where your modern life starts to echo something ancient. Think about the last time you actually cried in front of someone. Chances are, some part of you, even if you didn't want to, hoped they would notice, hoped they would respond. Even crying alone often carries an imagined audience, someone you wish could see what you're feeling. That instinct wasn't invented by modern emotional culture. It's old, far older than language, older than agriculture, older than most of what you'd call civilization. Every time tears form in your eyes, you're not simply leaking stress hormones, and you're not simply malfunctioning. You may be running a signal that your ancestors depended on to survive together. A signal built into your biology long before you had the words to explain what you were feeling. You have cried in front of another person before, and in that moment, without saying a single word, some ancient part of you may have been asking to be seen. If you watch this video up till this point, it probably means you enjoy learning about human biology, psychology, and evolution. Follow this channel to support it and keep videos like this showing up in your feed. And if you've ever caught yourself crying and wondered why, tell it in the comments. Your answer might be more ancient than you think.